Hey, Akshanya, how's it going? Give me a second. I'm pulling some stuff up here, making sure you guys can see everything. Yeah, all right. And also, you might notice I got my hair cut. Wife likes cutting my hair, so she did that between yesterday and today. So if you guys watch part one of this and then go, wait a minute, between part one and part two, he did get a haircut. That's true, I did. So I got them all cut, in fact. So what are we doing, or what were we doing yesterday, and then what are we kind of working into today? Um, I might not have been. Was I wearing my glasses yesterday? I might have been had my contacts in because I wrestled yesterday morning. I don't know. I can never remember anymore. But um, these are the things that we had talked about, and then we'll jump down to kind of where we are. So if anybody wants to, talk about getting into the field, I'll try to answer questions if I can. I know sometimes I seem like I'm just kind of driving through stuff, but I do try to answer questions if I see them. So let's talk about, so these were actual job board requirements. Somebody wanted you to be able to install, configure, and maintain Linux. So we touched on that yesterday. We looked at the different ways that we can build systems and the ways that we can get into automating that. We talked about monitoring systems and the ways that we kind of look at these four big areas. There are other areas of things, but typically if these four are moving along, your system's driving on and kind of going. By the way, some of you might say, wait a minute, Scott, in Discord, I thought you were working on your dissertation all day. Yeah, I'm kind of having a non-starter day, so I figured I'd come and hang out with you guys a little bit and talk. And then I guess maybe if I talk and get the brain moving a little bit, then I'll go back and start working on that. Um, Akshanyam, I think that's what I'm going to start doing. I think people will like that because I can have some pre-work for it, so people feel like they've got some stuff to get ready, and then we'll do the intensive for a day, and then maybe we'll have like another week for people to work on it, and then we'll have like maybe a recap a week later or something. I think that would be, I don't know. I think people would get a lot out of that. Yeah. Then kind of Asian. Yeah. And I would probably do it in the morning, like a block, and then I'd probably do one in the afternoon too, Ekshunyam. So that would hopefully, and I don't know what it thinks I'm saying your name is, but hopefully that would, yeah, get, I want to meet, I want to meet as many people as where they are, and help them learn this stuff. So, all right. Then we got down into like implementing and maintaining security measures in Linux, and we talked about how there's two ways to kind of do that. When you build a system, you want to build it securely, so those are building to a standard. And then we talked about like maintaining a system as it's live. So build it to a standard, maintain it, make sure that it's being updated, make sure that you're patching it, you're auditing the users and logins and things in real time to make a system like more secure. That's kind of the gist of what we were talking about there. Then we talked about like managing who can get into your system. Your system can trust things and have like a third party trust where, okay, I'm going to allow these users in and trust that Active Directory knows their username and password and passes on to me that it's okay for them to be here. Those kind of things, right? We can do that. So I'm just kind of talking about things that we went through yesterday. And then we talked about performing routine system backups. Everybody's going to want you to know how to push files around a network. So you have to learn how to push and pull files with SCP, and then not just do it once, but be able to do it multiple times. And then they want you to be able to kind of do that within like a Linux environment where maybe you set something to go back up every so often, right? And we talked about how you can do that manually. Sure, we can write scripts. That's kind of like the first level of automation maturity is scripts. Scripts get kicked off. Scripts get put in cron. That's okay maturity. What's a level past that for maturity is to have like an agent on the server. You build out some kind of process like Bacula is a very popular one. Avamar is one. Bear OS, we found that the other day when I was looking at these. There's a bunch of these different agents that we can put on the machines. Then we can configure a backup schedule, and then that backup schedule can just be monitored that yes, we are doing the backups and the things that we think that we're going to do. So this is, and again, these are directly, all of these numbered things are directly from the job posting that I found a while back. So we could open up a new one and find a new job posting, but I guarantee you they're going to want you to troubleshoot, log things, do all these things that we're showing. So this one was backup. The next one was install and configure server hardwares and peripherals. And what I was saying is, if they're physical servers, you're going to be going to those machines. You're going to be powering them down with like a shutdown-h now and shutting down the OS before you power down the box. And then you're going to go and add some card or pull out a disk array and put a new disk, whatever things that you're doing to that physical server hardware in the rack, you're going to do that. And then you're going to plug it back in, and you're going to do something like what's over here on the right, which is like a D message, and you're going to see that things are there. You're going to see that things are being registered. And I was explaining how like I would go and do that to like 10 servers and then turn them on, and then only 9 of them would see the card. So then maybe one of my cards wasn't seated well, or maybe my card had a problem. That in 10 systems and 10 hardware bus adapters maybe that you get, you might expect 1 or 2 of them to possibly be bad. Even if like maybe you've bought 1,000 from the vendor, a few of them are going to be bad, right? We know that there's going to be systems that are not good, so maybe I got to go send it back or something. But the point is, maybe the first thing I do is go seed it again and re-troubleshoot it and that kind of stuff. So they want you to know how to configure server hardware and peripherals. So make sure that your systems work and that you can add disks to them and pull disks out and do some RAID stuff. That's all installing server hardwares and peripherals. Then this next one, this is where we stopped yesterday, right? So like this was kind of like our hard stop yesterday. I kind of glazed over this one real quick, and then we got into collaborate with other IT professionals to plan and implement system upgrades and migrations. Okay, so there's kind of a thing here that's valuable. I'll show you guys from my VS Code. There's a drawing I sometimes show you guys, and I'm going to pull this drawing up because I do think that it's useful to see. This comes from Cisco, and it is called the this is, by the way, this talk here, we had once done this in in a tool called Excalidraw. So I had set it up like this, getting into the Linux engineering field. But I wanted you guys to see this drawing. I've shown this a lot in here, and some of you guys have probably seen this and go, okay, he's pulling up the PPDIOO methodology again. But this is a methodology that Cisco uses right here. This comes from Cisco. And it is the idea that you prepare, plan, design, implement, operate, and optimize systems. This is what you do with networking, but it's what you do with all systems. So I think it's a really good thing to kind of understand. Hey, Robodom, how's it going? You're not working too hard today, are you, Robodom? This is a day off for you, I hope. Robodom's one of my mods on both sides, so whenever he's around, we always give him a little shout out. We're just talking about getting into the Linux field, Robodom. I know people want to do Linux full time. Some people just want to do tech. Like Robodom, I think, is one of these guys. He wants to just do tech. He doesn't necessarily care if it's all Linux. And I don't blame anybody for that. Not everybody wants to sit at a command line all day. So what some people want to do is they want to be, maybe they want to be a project manager. Or they want to be Linux heavy, but they're going to do storage area networking. I run into all different types of engineers in my daily walk. You got unscheduled for work? Nice. Yeah. Robodom, this is what we do around here, so you're always welcome to hang out. In fact, before I came live right now, I was in the Discord. I was just kind of sitting down there by myself, and then I was like, this is kind of a non-starter for me, so I'm just going to hop on and talk with people. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm kind of continuing yesterday's talk. But where we're going with this is, if you understand how things get deployed, and you understand what stage of maybe the deployment you're at or where you're working, it's kind of this idea, like, I hate to say it like this because this offends people, but it's like, if you know your station in life, you're kind of a bit happier than like if you're just wandering around not understanding. And you say, what do you mean your station in life? I'm not assigned to something. Well, if you're doing tech, you kind of are, right? Like if you're an admin, you're keeping the lights on. That's what you do. Your life is going in and making sure all the servers are up. And during your 8 hours or 10 hours, if you're in the NOC or something, the time that you're there, the servers stay on, then you go home and you get to pat yourself on the back because that was a successful day. That's what admin work is keeping all the servers on. If I got called like after an admin day and all my servers were still on, they're like, Scott, this thing is now down. I'd be like, well, it was up when I was there. Okay, that's not maybe the best answer, but what I'm saying is like, I did my job for the day. I kept everything up. And one of the things I tell you guys is, because then people say, well, I'm an admin, but I want to become an engineer. I want these other responsibilities. That's cool. The way to move up in responsibilities is then to help to optimize the system. So we operate systems and keep them running. That's the bare minimum. We got to keep the lights on. Network operations, security operations. These guys are monitoring stuff, watching stuff. We give them these heads-up displays like this over here. We give them. This isn't a great one. this is a better one. Like, are all the systems green? Sure, cool. We'll go about our day. That's just a heads-up display that they can look at. They can be like, okay, all the systems look up. Boom. That's a heads-up display, what we call it, like a HUD or a dashboard. There's no red lights. You guys started your car and it doesn't have a light on, so you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna drive to work. And then if the light comes on, you're like, oh shoot, I'm gonna drive to work, but now I'm gonna be worried about it all day. That kind of thing, right? If any of you ever watched the old show The Big Bang Theory, he gets in Penny's car and the light's on, and that's like my whole youth was like having a car with a check engine light on. Because that's just the thing. Anyways, the point is you keep the stuff on. That's what we do as admins. But we also, if we start optimizing things, if we start making things better, and we get into the practice of like updating documentation, and when management sees like your name on documentation, and when other people go, oh, you know what, you're even, especially in meetings and stuff, when they're like, oh shoot, I don't know how to do that, but you know what, Scott wrote a doc on that last time he ran into it. When people hear your name a lot like that, and I'm not telling you got to be political. I'm not going to tell you got to send emails out and all this stuff and shout your praises or anything. But if you're optimizing things in the company, people should notice. And some people, look, there's always the negative people that are like, oh, no, nobody will ever notice me. Well, I can't help whether or not you actually get noticed. What I can tell is that if you're doing things to make things work better, you're making your life easier. You're probably making your coworkers' lives easier. And I do believe that's, for me, that's the way to get noticed and moved into some of these other roles. Because if they notice that you know how to operate and optimize systems, they're going to start using you in the build phase of new things. And next thing you know, you're going to be kind of over here on the engineering teams building new stuff. So this is kind of the way that I think of that. But you got to be able to collaborate with other IT professionals. This is a thing you have to do. You're going to be, so what I'm going to tell you, and this is true of all teaching, of all systems work, if you're going to talk to other people, you need to talk their language, right? So some companies like to use a common framework called ITIL. It's a very common framework. A lot of companies use it. And it makes you, ITIL makes you turn all of the stuff that your team does, like let's say I'm the Linux engineering team, into kind of a menu, and I can give that menu like this, like I can hang it over my arm all fancy, and you can go, I would like this, and I would like this, and then with those menu items, there's a cost, like there's a time that I will take to get it to you. I'll get you your lobster within 30 minutes, or I'll get you your server within 10 minutes if you ask for a server build, those kind of things. So ITIL kind of turns everything you do into, it's a, what we call, it's a lot of people think of it as a service framework. Everything we do is services to other things of our organization. Soft skills, being able to communicate things, is very important as well. It can demonstrate that. Yeah, I agree. Chinga Opa, I agree 100%. So another one that's big for if you're dealing with architects is TOGAF. That's an architecture framework. We could look that up. I forget what that stands for, but everything in TOGAF comes out as a what we call an artifact. So TOGAF, here's a little starter pack. People have different stuff. I think the actual TOGAF standard is right here by the open group. And what is it? It's for enterprise architects, and it's this cool little, let's see if we can open the image in a new tab. And you have preliminary, and then here's requirements management in the middle, and all the things that we do, and all the every interaction generates what we call an artifact around building some things. Now, I am an artifact guy because engineers build artifacts all the time, but I'm not an architect, right? I don't go just sit around thinking about things. I want to build things. That's kind of where my career is. So, but I have to deal with architects all the time, right? Architects plan things, and then I tell them if it's feasible or not, or if we can integrate it with what we have. That's kind of my role. But that being said, I should know how to interact with those guys or girls, I guess. I need to know how to interact with those people. So this is a way to understand, even if you don't want to be an architect. I have no interest in being an architect. I can go build architectures whenever I want. I'm just going to stay as an engineer because I like to actually get my hands down and build the systems. That's one of my things, right? That's a thing that I realized early on about myself is I'm happy when I'm building things. But the point is you can know how they're going to talk to you. You're going to know how they're going to approach you and what they're going to ask for. And that makes your life easier because you're dealing with people on terms, what we call like terms, or speaking their language. You know, people are like, now you're speaking my language whenever you hand them money. Well, money's the universal language, right? But in the systems world, artifacts and how we deal with requirements is part of architecture. Another one that's big is agile. Now, because the systems engineering world that I grew up in doesn't exist anymore, literally everybody is trying to be DevOps. They're taking, so it used to be us, we'd build the systems, build the Linux servers, and then we'd have a dev team up here, and they would be building, Java or Python. I've even supported teams that were all PHP, which is kind of funny because they were not, I'm not talking web PHP, I'm talking PHP was their applications. That being said, we used to build the systems and build all the Linux, and then they would come in and they would build stuff on top of it and complain. That's basically our interactions. They would be like, hey, fix this server, get my users access, and we'd be like, all right, we'll get it for you. And that was like our interactions. But that was dev teams and like engineering and like systems engineering teams. But nowadays it's that's kind of melded into this thing that people call DevOps, because we can just push a button nowadays and deploy Linux servers, right? And containers and stuff. You almost don't even need people like me in as far as like a pure systems engineer. You almost don't even need that anymore. That being said, if you do have people like me, or maybe I'm being pushed up into DevOps roles and that kind of stuff, then I need to speak this language of Agile. Agile has 4 components to it. Everybody I know that runs Agile does not adhere to those 4 components. They're just saying that they're being Agile. Anybody want to see what those 4 are? I can show you what they are. Excuse me. It's from my, I got a talk on this, which is called my soft engineering skills. Pull up this talk real quick here. Get that out of the way. This comes from a talk that I sometimes give you guys. We're not going to go through it right now, but let me pull this over so you guys can see it. Boom. And this is what stand-up meetings are, but these are the Agile methodologies. These are the 4 things that comprise of Agile right here. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. So one of these things, like a concept of Agile that would kind of be, it would actually kind of fall into here, and it would also kind of fall in, well, it kind of falls into all 4 of these actually, is let's say at noon, me and a software engineer, we're working, like he's over my shoulder, I'm building an environment up for him, and we come to a problem. We did not agree that I was going to do something inside of these systems, or I was going to have to lack some kind of standard, and we had not agreed on that. But he and I are working on it, and I just go, in some ways, F it, and I just do the thing, and he and I blow through, we get all these other things, we get a working prototype, and then we get back to the meeting tomorrow morning, right? So the meetings are stand-up meetings every day. And they go, well, why didn't you wait till you came back here and get an agreement from all of us? And it's like, because that's the opposite of what you want us to do with Agile. But I'm going to tell you almost universally, you're going to get pushback like that. And you're like, well, we're either Agile or we're not. So I actually have a meme floating around in our Discord where it's that little, you ever seen that dinosaur with the sunglasses on? And he's like, that wasn't very cash money of you, but that wasn't very Agile of you. I made that because it amused me, but it's also effing true. Like, a company wants to be Agile, but then when you're working with like the lead developer, and you're like kind of like doing what you call almost like pair programming, but it's pair environment building and programming, and you're working through problems. But we're not just following a plan, and we're not going to go back and tap the contract and go, well, I said I'd do this and you said you do that, and then nothing gets done for 6 months. It's not the old waterfall style of engineering anymore. Agile is supposed to be quick, type engineering. That's what I can't snap with my left very good. Plus my hands are all jacked up from jiu-jitsu, right? Grips. Your hands are always jacked up. But my right hand, I can snap. And that's what it's supposed to be like. All right, anyways, I'm going far afield. If you can show how you've done in the past deadlines planning. So you might want to study PMBOK a little bit, Project Management Body of Knowledge. So you might want to study a little bit about how project managers work and how they talk about things. They deal with things like a critical path and a critical chain, and making sure that things are making sure that whatever the next thing is getting delivered on time. So there's that kind of stuff. Hey, New World Andy, how's it going? Yeah, hopefully this stuff's useful. We're just continuing yesterday's talk, except I've got all my hair cut now. Wife cut my hair this morning, so looks good. She doesn't let anybody else cut my hair because she likes to do it. So, and she does a good job. So I mean, I can't blame it. Can't blame her. This one did not get a lot of like space here, but this is one of the most important things. Being able to document things, being able to write procedures, being able to write up how you troubleshoot things, tremendously important as an engineer. How do you take notes? How do you, if you're working on something, right? Like if I came over here and you guys saw, some of you guys were around here yesterday. Let's exit out of here. And I did this hardening, and I moved over an image. So I copied an image from Rocky 9 to Rocky Linux Harden 9, and then I went and I modified some stuff in here, and I like changed the cheroots. I made a hardened cheroots directory, and then I ran some Ansible against that. Right? Oh, I went against cheroot. I didn't even go against the right one. Oh my god, I was going against the wrong server. But anyways, yeah, I was going against the wrong one here. I should have been going against hardened cheroots. Anyways, it doesn't matter. And then you saw me like modifying my environment in some way. Well, can I document that? And in some ways, is this its own documentation? So I have like 3 tiers of documentation that I talk about. Yeah, Robin, I think she did a good job. I had shaved the other day too, and then when I shaved, she was like, "Oh, now we got to cut your hair," and I was like, "Yeah," because I was getting pretty scraggy. Scragular's not a word. None of those are words. Whatever. Some of those are words. Some of those are not words. All right. I got something called Theraputty, like silly putty for your hands, helps your fingers. Nice. Yeah. I sometimes when I compete, I tape my hands up, like when I'm training to compete. It's actually funny. If you guys ever see me with like, well, you won't see my chest a lot, but if you ever saw my chest and I'm all bruised up from jiu-jitsu, and I get bruises like on the back of my arms sometimes, like you'll see like back here, you'll see like bruises. Well, I'm not really showing my arms off much, but if I've got bruises everywhere, it's because people are gripping right through your gi and gripping your skin, and I'll have bruises all over me. Look like hickeys on my chest, but I mean, what can you do? And then sometimes I'll have black eye. I'll show you guys if I get black eyes, but normally, I'm glad that says black eyes and not black guys. That would be, don't get in trouble with like my closed captioning system. Anyways, all right. So how do you take notes? So this is the rawest form of note taking to me, is what's happening in the terminal. That's my, I guess I don't really have them ordered 1, 2, 3, but this is like what I consider my rawest form of note taking right here. This is like, it's unedited. It's the things that happen. There's a whole bunch of errors in here and things that I don't want to include, but this is like a record of actually what happened. A lot of times when I'm running the tool screen, especially professionally, if I'm running screen, I am always going to a log file so I can go see everything that happened. So that's my first like rawest level of note takings that I do. My second level of note, and by the way, that's never seen by anybody unless they're in the system. That doesn't go to managers. That doesn't go to outside of me. It goes to you guys when you guys see me do stuff here, but like, no. I don't show people like professionally that kind of work. The next level is something like this. We'll come back to my stream job examples here in a second. This is my next level, and we did this the other day in the automation group. But this is like my second level of note taking. Where's that? Unit 9. This was my Unit 9 build out. So this was the lab for us to build out Werewolf the other day. And this is like, it's almost like I took all of this stuff and I sifted it down to just exactly what we needed. So set up the version of Go, that's Go capitalized, right? That works with Werewolf. And this was how we stripped off the other Go and then did it. Then we installed Ansible. Then we built Werewolf on top of Ubuntu with everything. It took about 8 minutes to build. We put Aptainer on the system, and then we did downloaded and prepared an image. But this is like still kind of raw notes, but it's strained down from what we originally did. Okay. Then what happened here? Sorry. Something in my eye. This is not what I would show management either. This might go out in like a quick email to the team if somebody was like, "Hey Scott, what was that? What was that like quick and dirty that you did to fix something or to build like a lab in this case?" This would maybe go out to like my team. This is my second level of notes. As far as the first level is this raw stuff over here, very just you would never show somebody this because there's too much output and there's too much everything. This is kind of like I strained it down to just the commands that worked. These are the actual steps. But this is not a finished product yet because while some people can go through and do this, this is not like ready for prime time. My last level of kind of cleaning this up would then be kind of my cleaned up documentation that kind of shows somebody how to actually do a thing. Like let's say we were going to go to, let's do like bastion hosts and air gaps. And let's go to the lab here. The lab might look more like this. It might even have an image in it. And then it would talk about some stuff. Does this one have... Yeah, and then it would walk you through and it would maybe ask you some questions if it were a lab. But like a final presentation is cleaned up, it's indented, it's organized, it flows exactly like I want. Maybe it talks a little backup for why we have to do each of the things maybe. And it gives maybe some timing in there. Like this one says, oh, this may take 8 minutes. But I wouldn't necessarily do that, on that command. I would maybe do it above so it would look a little more clean. But I have like kind of these 3 tiers of documentation that I do as an engineer. That's kind of my... Thanks for that, Robodon. So, where are we at here? If we go to... So let's go back to where we were. So again, you see a lot of my kind of raw notes here, right? I have a whole bunch of them. But we were over here in... we were even further left. Job skills examples, was it this one? Yeah. So how do you take notes? Clean up everything in a raw format, clean it up for final consumption. Don't show people your raw notes. There's 2 reasons. One, they can't follow along with it anyways. And 2, it doesn't look very professional. Like if somebody asked me how to do something and I just dumped this on them, most people couldn't even do anything with this because they don't know how to do the Linux. They wouldn't know where it's going, any of that stuff. And then 2, even if they could, this isn't very cleaned up and professional looking. So, there's 2 good reasons right there not to do that kind of stuff. So, I do have let me see if I have it in the soft engineering talk. I'm pretty sure I do have it in here. One of my things about like, there's this old quote. I learned this. I want to say this was in one of my master's degrees, where they asked this mechanic, right? And he was this dude in California who had, he didn't even graduate high school, I don't think, but he grew this shop from one automobile shop to like hundreds, maybe tens or hundreds in California, and he was considered a really successful guy. And they asked him what was the secret of his success, and he's like, "Oh, I can give you all these other things, but I learned very early on this." He said, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, people will judge how well you can rebuild an engine by how clean your bathroom is. So he kept his little areas up front really clean for people, and people translated that into he was good at building engines and good at that stuff. Isn't that weird? But that's something he found, and I think that kind of holds in business. If your emails look like shit, people aren't going to think you're a smart engineer. I don't care how smart you are. You can be like, Scott, that's the meanest thing you've ever said to me. And I'd be like, well, I'm sorry that the world is mean. I'm just telling you that the world is mean. People will judge you based on, if you sent this to somebody. I've actually told this to engineers before. I've taken like my junior engineers aside because they'll send something like this to somebody. And I'm going to be like, why didn't you just fucking send this to them? Why don't you just send your hand like this, flipping them off? Because if you did that, if you sent that to me, and I've been looking, and I tell you guys all the time, I've been looking at Terminal for like 25 years. You sent that to me, I'd be like, I have no idea what that is. I mean, I know what the command is, and I know what it's supposed to show me, but I can't read that. I've been reading this for as long as some people watching this have probably been alive. I have no idea what that's trying to tell me. The same thing right here, even if you were like a manager and you've never been in a command line terminal, you can go, well, there's my usage right there. None of the servers are over 50% usage on their route. Okay, cool. Yeah, Scott showed me that the 100 servers I asked for, 50 servers I asked for, weren't over 50%. Cool. I can report that up to my management. But if you send somebody this is the same exact output, by the way. This is just like a slap in the face. Why don't you just flip them off? Why don't you tell them to go F themselves? There's a reason iPhones come. Yeah. How's it going, Frozen Fusion? We're just hanging out, not working too hard. we are talking about a bunch of different stuff, but right now I'm talking about like formatting things. I'm going to show you guys something. This next slide is a real slide from a real college student. There's nothing incorrect about this slide. There's not this presentation. What he sent me is a perfectly it's one subnet bit borrowed from 192.168.5.0/25. So they borrowed one bit. Everything on that slide is perfect. Is any information conveyed there? Even if you told me, Scott, I know networking well, I'm a network engineer. If I showed you that, you'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" I mean, I get it, right? You'd figure it out, but you'd also be like, why would you even send somebody that? So I always tell my engineers, if you're going to send somebody that, why don't you just send this on things? Why don't you just flip them off? You're new to Linux and starting out with Zorin, then Fedora tips. I would tell you, make sure you're getting down at the command line. Make sure you're understanding the basics. So the question is, starting out with Linux, what would you do? We have, if you want to just play with Linux and do Linux, then just get something that, can get you online, get you productive, that kind of stuff. If you want to do Linux professionally, if you want to move over to professional stuff, we have, all this stuff I show you guys is free here. Let me just go back to Prolog. I'll just go here. This is our free set of course books. So if you're like, hey, I want to get into maybe doing some of this stuff, we've got a Linux admin course that teaches you things that I think you need to know to do this stuff professionally. But I would say the first thing to do in Linux is just get into Linux, get into the command line. That would be my number one thing that I would tell you to do. If you say, Scott, I don't have a box to do command line right now, but I do want to get into it, then I would tell you guys to start working with Killer Coda. Killer Coda is one of the best free sites on the web. And we can just drop you down right into a Linux sandbox. You got guys like me teaching you Ansible over here. All of my labs are here. Where are my labs? Hetanis right here. So here's all of my labs. If you guys want to go to Ansible or automation, we're still doing the automation course right now. This is all right here for anybody that needs that. And then Tone said, getting more deep into Linux. Okay, well, it depends what you want to do, Tone Win over on YouTube. Some books, we have 2 free books right now, and then a third book that's getting built, so I did link that. You can use that. Another one, we were talking about this yesterday, was Brendan Gregg. This guy is really good if you want to get into performance stuff. He's got some really good, he actually has books you can buy as well, but his site is really good for performance monitoring and stuff. If you tell me, hey, Scott, I want to do Linux, so the question is about, like, get into Linux more deeply. If you want to do Linux and then maybe get into, like, a DevOps role or site reliability, there's the SRE books from Google. These are all free. I'm giving you guys all free resources here. Here's your site reliability books on that. But honestly, if you told me, hey, Scott, I just want to learn Linux and I want to get better at doing things down in Linux, but maybe with different tools, I would tell you just generally come here to Killer Coda and find something that's interesting to you. Because everything in here is in Linux, but this is Kubernetes focused. But let's say you were like, hey, Scott, I want to learn Linux as a base, but I also want to understand the CyberArk tool. CyberArk's a big tool in the industry. So maybe click here. I've never actually looked at their labs, but here's Kubernetes with Kubesploit and a kubescan playground, and I think it shows you how to set up probably some version of CyberArk in here, right? Looks like this is Kubernetes with Kubesploit under the CyberArk labs. So it's going to build whatever it's doing, and then it's going to show you, it's going to walk you through some labs where you can go build. In this case, we're going to build Nginx, and then check that it has whatever it needs to have in there, right? So my point in saying that is you can get a lot of hands-on Linux without even building a Linux environment. If you need a Linux environment, our Prolog group has Linux resources for people that want to do our labs from the book. So our book and labs are free, and then if you go in here and do the labs, you can do them in our environment. That's the goal of that. All right. So anyways, take pride in your work. This is what we were talking about. If you're going to send somebody something, like, your work needs to be above reproach. That's something I say here in presenting data. That's be above reproach. Like, if you're going to deal, if I tell you that engineering is the search for truth, and I tell you that we deal in we deal in precision. If I just sit up here and give you bullshit advice or bullshit topic, and I start trying to show you Linux, but all my commands are just like this, and then you'd be like, this guy doesn't know Linux very well. Well, you're going to see me make plenty of mistakes, but you're not going to see me make mistakes like this because those aren't real Linux commands. But if I gave you bullshit commands all the time, you'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to listen to this guy anymore. Take it with a grain of salt. What I'm telling you is the truth of the matter is engineering is precision and truth. That's what we deal with. So all of the commodity that I have within my company is how accurate I am. If I'm going to give people answers that have to be double checked, or they have to go talk to somebody else and then they find out I was lying, or I just didn't know what I was talking about, or I was on the wrong system, or I can't get a service back working late at night on a call. I mean, like, if I'm just giving bad information in and we can't get something working, that's a real bad spot to be as an engineer. You're probably not going to have your job for very long. Because once people start realizing that you don't deal in truth and accuracy, right? Precision, as it were. So when I say things or do things, I try to show exactly where I was looking, how I got to those answers. So this is just a thing about like how you send emails. Like obviously you want to format things correctly, like I was just showing, but the things that you are saying should be accurate, right? That's an important thing. Make sure you're on the right server, test what you say, those kind of things. Yeah, don't talk about your feelings, because feelings are irrelevant in engineering. Like, I feel good today, but that doesn't mean my engineering is good today. Learn to do database observations. Me and my buddy Jared, for Christmas, we didn't tell anybody that we were doing ugly sweaters, but he and I wore, so you guys that missed it, me and Jared wore ugly sweaters that said, that wasn't very data driven of you. He's a data analytics guy. That's what he does all day. I'm just a Linux engineer, but that was funny. I thought that was pretty good. All right. So, anyways, learn your database observations. Understand scope and scale. You got to understand what mean, median, and mode mean. Like, you have to just understand the basics of those things, as well as what it means to be a distinct outlier, or to be 10 standard deviations from the mean. That means that I can mostly ignore that data point, as far as like multiple. Anyways, and then there's a bunch of anti-methodologies. There's more than this that exist, but like the blind man, spotlighting, blaming someone else. I tell people all the time, like I always tell my Linux engineers, don't get on a call and blame networking. Oh, this looks like a networking problem we had last week. Network engineers know that they're the problem. You don't have to tell them they're the problem. They're going to dislike you when you do that. So I always tell my guys, don't do that shit. Wait until you can prove that it's not you. Say, hey, this I can't get from here to there. I need somebody from networking to help me out. They know they're the problem. But if you're the one pointing it at them, they're going to hate you just as much as they hate the rest of the world. They're network engineers. They already don't like everybody. You guys ever seen the haiku that says DNS? Yeah. You guys ever seen the DNS haiku? Haikus are always 575. Have you guys ever seen? If you've missed it, let me show this to some of you, because I know some of you haven't seen this. But it's the DNS haiku. This is pretty good. And it's not DNS. There's no way it's DNS. It was DNS. That's a 575 format. That's a proper haiku. That gets shared in our Discord like once a month. Somebody will be complaining about something broke, something this and this. It was DNS. Did you guys see the really big AWS outage that happened a few months ago? And you go read through the report. You can go read the report, guys. They report exactly what happened. It was the TLDR was it was DNS. That's actually kind of funny, but it's true. It was their DNS. Their DNS like collapsed all through US East 1, right? You guys can go look at that, but it crushed a bunch of different services when it went down. Oh, these have been around. This has been around a long time. Always with the little cherry blossoms. All right. Anyways, I'll get far afield if you let me. Let's go back over here. So documentation, it's very important. If you guys, I tell people, if you want to shine, one of the things that you do in a company, I got asked this a while back, and I think I put it in, I think it's in notes. So a lot of the stuff, if you guys are looking for any of this, it's up in the Discord. You can always ask, and we'll try to help you out. But I had this thing I wrote a while back. Let's go back a little bit. This is in my meeting notes section. It's a ways back. I remember writing it up. And the guys asked, I got the job. Now what do I do the first few days or the first few weeks? Because I always do the same things when I come in on a project. I always do the same things. And I think it kind of makes you look like a rock star. This was for interviews. Those were interview questions. Hold on. I'm going to find it for you guys. Job requirements. That was sysadmin. So that's what we're actually looking at now, the sysadmin stuff. Let's go up. This is different stuff that you need to know and this kind of stuff. Is there a Prolog adjacent set of resources except for BSD? No. I don't focus on BSD, not because I have any problem with it. It's just because I don't, we don't tend to have, there's not a lot of jobs that are BSD related. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of focus on like enterprise level stuff for people. So no, there's no adjacent stuff. However, I will tell you, if you do some of those labs and stuff, you can modify them for different types of Linux if you wanted to. My goal is kind of just to like, I call it painting with a wide brush. I try to show you guys like 95% of the useful things you'll do, and then in your individual jobs, it's gonna be different. Hold on, let me see if I know I have this here. This was from today's talk. So starting tasks when you're onboarding as a new sysadmin. So let's say you're just a brand new sysadmin, and it's your first week. Some of the guys said, what do I think that you should do? And this was kind of like this is something I do on every team that I've ever been on. And then it's funny because like my system map drawing, we'll get to it here in a second, it almost always becomes the standard. Not because I think that my drawings are any good, it's just that I think through things the same way every time. So when you're new sysadmin, document things to make an onboarding document. So when you come on, there's probably going to be a bunch of things that have to happen and nobody's going to have documented it. So document it. Be the person who says, okay, where are all the documentation sources? And whenever somebody shows you, hey, this is over here and this is over here, keep note of it. Is it in our wiki page? Do we have a wiki page, but it's a mess and everybody just keeps things in other places? Start working on moving all that stuff into the wiki page. Is it SharePoint? Some companies use SharePoint. We tend not to like that in the engineering world, but SharePoint is a thing and it is popular with non-engineers, so sometimes you have to interact with it. That's fine. Understand what the tool is, document it, and then now when the next person comes along and goes, hey, where's all the documentation? You've got it all in one place for them. You've got one doc like this. If you do that and people start putting other people towards you that are new or even people that know the system are like, oh shoot, I don't know where that is, but Scott knows where it is. Now you're somebody that people go to and you start to get like an expert authority. This is a big one, man. You're going to get invited to a lot of meetings, but there's never going to be, SharePoint's a thing, man. We don't always like it, but it is a thing in companies. If you have a daily stand-up meeting, make sure you get that invite. If you've got like weekly engineering change boards and other like operational meetings, document all of them. Keep track of them. These are the meetings that we do every week. And then when the next person comes along, you can invite them to all those meetings, or you can say, hey, make sure that this person gets you that invite. And then now you know where all the meetings are that are like the recurring weekly meetings. Now, I got to back up for a second. Being an engineer means we try to be in as few meetings as possible. That's very true. But sometimes when you start on a new team, new project, whatever, it's good to go to these meetings even if you're not required to. You're going to be required to go in your daily stand-up with your team, sure. But these weekly ones that aren't necessarily required, like you don't have to go to a change meeting unless you're on the change board. I always go to them anyways. You know why? One, I can just sit there and listen because I'm not doing any actual work at that time. But two, I can hear what networking's doing and I can hear what the security teams are doing and all these things that are one day going to affect me because eventually we're all going to be checking out maybe our credentials from like CyberArk or checking them out from HashiCorp Vault. I can know that all of those things are coming down the pike without me. That's the right way to say that, by the way. Without, it's not the pipe, without like being blindsided one day. I kind of know. It's like you keep your finger on the pulse of the thing, right? You got your fingers here. You're checking the pulse. You should check access to the servers that you're going to connect to. Can you get into the jump box? Can you find all the things you think you're supposed to? Can you get into your Jira board where you find work? Can you get into your team calendar if your team's got a calendar where maybe you take vacation or whatever? Can you get into SharePoint? Can you see the SharePoint portal if that's a thing, or your wiki boards or whatever? Can you get into your GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab? Is it local? Is it exposed externally? Where do we do that? Do you have to get some keys generated? Do you have to keep your keys local in your user on your server? Like, where are you going to put those things? These are things that you need to check access to. And typically, like for me, I'll report those up to management until I'm good on all those. But then I also keep track of that process, so when the next guy comes along, I can help them through it. Makes you look like a rock star, and you didn't even have to work very hard. All right. Make sure you know all your points of contact. Do you know how to talk to HR? Like, because sometimes you got to get like documents or sign things, and you typically have like an HR rep that you deal with. Talk to architects if you can, especially if you're like a systems engineer, new systems engineer. Not even if you're like the lead, like I almost always am. I mean, I've been the lead for the last 15 years, so when I say that, I just mean people bring me in to lead the team. Well, I probably want to go talk with the architects and see what kind of documentation's out there. What do we have around? Because they have artifacts for all their stuff, hopefully, how they built everything. What service level indicators or key performance indicators do we have for these systems? You know, what's our prod? Do we have a naming scheme? Sometimes we have a good naming scheme, sometimes we don't. And then what are our current, I always want to hear from people what their current pain points are. Because if you start solving, guys, I'm telling you, if you get on a team and you start solving stuff, that's like the next major pain point. And then at the next meeting, they're like, well, that we reported on this every week, but now we don't have to report on it anymore because somebody fixed it. I'm not telling you to be political. I'm just telling you that like having your name out there looks good for management. Management loves hearing people's names, right? Loves knowing who they can talk to. And then this is a big one for me. I always do this every system I'm on. I draw a system map. I draw it out as I see it. Where do I enter the system? Like, what is my logical jumping in through a bastion, hitting a jump post? And then from there, I build to the right. I always build everything that I draw to the right of where my entry point is. That's my standard. You can do any one you want. I build down and to the right typically. So then what jump hosts or hosts do I have internally? What naming schemes are we using? Where are servers found? And if you do these things, if this is just like what I think you should do maybe like your first week on a team, you start to kind of shape up to be like a little bit of a rock star without even doing anything hard. I don't think any of these things right here are hard. But if anybody needs those are up in the Discord from 11/3/2024, so just over a year ago. I said Mel Gibson instead of Mel Brooks. Oh my God. What other one? Did I have any other ones? There was some security engineering questions that I think are useful. There's a bunch of notes up here, guys. That's what the note channel's for. Trying to see if I have any other ones. I used to keep, when we would do like our Prolog meetings on Saturdays, I would keep like who showed up and what we were doing. Oh yeah, look, we got some. There's some old names up there. Oh, some people have been around for a while. Then our different drawings and stuff, what we're doing. I might copy this and hold on to this one. Anyways, there's a bunch of stuff in there. All right. So, you know, keep it clean. Set up your system configuration procedures and troubleshooting. So you got to be able to, if you don't want to get called, if you work on stuff and build stuff, and you don't want to get called every single weekend, you need to write procedures at a level that somebody with only base systems information can get through those procedures without having to call you. Because if something breaks and they have to use a procedure and then it doesn't work, you get called out anyways. That's, you ever seen the from I think it's from the show Invincible, and the dad's like, that's the neat part, you don't. Well, that's true. If you tell me, hey, Scott, when do I stop getting called on the weekend? I say, if you're in charge and the buck stops with you, it only stops coming to you. The calls only stop coming to you if your procedures and documentation are good enough that your junior engineers can solve stuff without calling you. If you want to keep your, like, some people love to keep shit locked away so nobody can fix stuff except for them. That's fine. Give up your weekends for the rest of your life. I don't care. I don't give a shit. If you don't mind getting woken up at 1 a.m. or if you're already up, sure. Take the call out. I don't like that stuff. So I try to make my stuff good enough that other people can come along behind me. And I don't know how else to put it. That's a valuable thing later. As you get older, like when I was in my 20s, call me whenever you want. I'd be up, I'd drink a Monster, drink one of my wife's Red Bulls here, and just fucking go, right? But now in my 40s, I don't want to do that. I want to sleep all night. You wake me up in the middle of the night, I might as well just stay up for the day and then take naps later or whatever. All right. This next one is provide technical support assistance to end users and other IT staff. You can't just call people stupid. I tell people this all the time, right? We live, this was us messing around. We live at this command line, right? Like this is where us Linux engineers exist right here. So, you know, the fact that somebody else doesn't know how to do these commands, I can't be like that old character from Saturday Night Live. Does anybody remember that old character? He'd come in and he'd be like, oh, you don't know about the new x86 64 RAM deck? Move. And he would just tell people, I think it was Jimmy Fallon long ago. I think it was like in the 90s. He would come in and he would just make fun of people, and then he'd be like, move, and he'd just type on their keyboard, look how easy that fix was. You can't do that to people in the Linux world. If you do that to people, I mean, I know a lot of Unix and Linux admins that are kind of like that, but you can't really get away with that anymore. Not nowadays. You'll get you just get fired, man. I mean, they'll find somebody else. That like our days of just living in a basement and being rude, like the backup operator from hell. We don't get to do that anymore, guys. Yeah, you can. So these are the ways that you imply people are. So somebody said, "What if they are stupid?" Okay, fair enough, right? The whole there's no such thing as a stupid question. Then somebody goes, "Where do babies come from?" And you're like, if it's a biology class, that's fine. If it's like a networking class, then you're like, oh, God. All right. Anyway, so these are the ways that we call people dumb without calling them dumb. There is the famous, nobody ever knows this one, Picnic. I love Picnic. Problem in chair, not in computer. Most people know this one, PEBCAC. Problem exists between chair and keyboard, or alternatively, keyboard and chair. You can modify that one. Some people call it a layer 8 problem, which I love, because the OSI model only has 7 layers. So layer 8 problem is the user. And then I would tell you this. If your users constantly come to you, if you constantly get tickets, and sure, tickets are filtered through your lower engineering team and come up to you, sure. But if users are constantly trying to get into your bastions and your bastions constantly break for them or aren't intuitive, well, write up the documentation. And then instead of just calling them dumb, you can send them the documentation and say, hey, this is the step that you use to get in there. And then you'll find that you do a lot less of this, because this, at the end of the day, this isn't really helpful to anybody. This is just a sniggering as like a did you get it? The word is snigger. S-N-I-G. Yeah, that's the word. It's like to laugh, right? I don't know why I didn't want to say it, but that's the word, right? This isn't super helpful to a team. This is more positive. So my point is, you can use your energy either way, but I would tell you, if you get into documenting and training users on how they access your system, you'll have less of these calls that frustrate you. It's perfectly fine. I tell people all the time, all admins and all people that support others are going to be cynical over time. You're going to be cynical. You're going to deal with users. But like I tell people, I've dealt with really, really brilliant engineers that are just not Linux engineers. And I'm not going to call that person dumb because they don't understand how to do some command or some subset, or they don't have permissions to restart something on a system. They don't even know how to ask a question. What I'm going to do is try to make sure that they don't have to ask me that question. And then in some cases, I can give certain teams powers, with tools like Ansible and Tower, to do things on their environment without having to call me. But even then, I still got to help them. Yeah, operator error. Yeah. There's the old ID10T, but I never liked that. I never liked this one. This is very popular, ID10T. I never thought that was that clever. I'm like, okay. Yeah, when they see it, they're like, "Oh, you called me." That to me is a lot worse than this. This is just saying there's a problem, but it's not where we think it is. This is like insulting someone directly, which I'm like, I don't think this is nearly as clever as these ones, but okay. Anyways, I think you should stay current. This is another thing that they asked for this. Stay current with industry trends and best practices related to Linux administration. So I tell you, practice hands-on with Killer Coda. Get certs, and even if you're not going to pay for it, study the body of knowledge around the cert. So you can go download the overview objectives for an RHCSA, even if you're not going to take an RHCSA and pay $300. That might be too much for some people. I get that. So study the body of knowledge and know how to do those things they want. And then even if you don't get the cert, you at least know what the tasks are and you know how to set things up. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's true. It's yeah, if you and if you're getting a lot of problems from users, it's important. Then that might mean your documentation's not as good as you thought, right? Not everybody knows what it means to say you're the root operator of a system, or get, go to root on the system. Most of them can't even do that because they're users. So you may have assumptions. You may have assumptions like this. You may assume. You may assume they have the same path as you. Look, here's root's path right here. Root's path has much more lines in it, much more values than a user's path does. And if there are different pathings and I didn't know that or I didn't recognize that in my documentation, and I tell a user to just run some command and they're like, well, that command doesn't exist for me. And you're like, move. And then you go in as root and it just works. And you're like, why didn't you just do that? Well, you got to understand, users don't have the same environments as you, right? And then that, in my mind, that makes you start to look like you don't know what you're talking about. So sometimes people, especially I know admins that are like this, where they follow their assumptions in all things, and it's not always accurate. So, anyways, that's something to think about. I think there's a lot of there's so many free conferences out there, free virtual things that you can go do. I always try to post them. We don't always post them, but I always try to post them in our typically, where's that? It should be conferences channel. And then like these guys, whatever conferences are going on, I try to post them in here. Some of the guys these are actually people that were at different conferences, but a lot of times I'll post, hey, what's up, Tommy? My brother Tom's here. You guys know Timodius. Some of you guys from the Discord. Come over here, Tommy.
Discord, or you?
No, I'm streaming. Pop down here.
Oh, you're streaming. Oh,
Yeah, right there. Boom. That's my brother Timodius, who's in our Discord. Hey, you sit right here, Tommy. What's going on, man? Yeah, Julie did my hair. Look good. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Tom works as a he's a data analytics guy for a big insurance company. So, what are you up to, bro? What are you doing today?
I was dropping some stuff off for Mom. I had to run over to the store, pick up some stuff.
Nice.
Some drywall anchors. So I bought a curtain.
Oh, nice.
And then
Are you gonna do that then?
right in the front room. Yeah. So.
Nice. So, for you guys, I'm just going over the job skills and stuff. But with Tom here, I can jump over. If you guys want, I'll ask Tom. How long you got? You got like a few minutes?
I got a few minutes.
Got like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
All right. You can either hop over here or you can just stay over there. It doesn't matter. Here's my questions for guests. So we're gonna interview Tom, who is a what's your actual title?
Right
You can
now,
pull a chair up.
Right now, it's a strategic finance and analytics lead.
Listen to that. That sounds like he makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to sit in here, Tommy? Here, go grab one of those chairs right there. I got some chairs in my office here. We'll put Tommy in here. Yeah, sit right here, Tommy.
So we basically.
I didn't even know Tom was coming over
the
either.
The title is a bunch of BS, but the purpose of it is we provide strategy to our team based on analytics, based on data-driven insights. So we collect information, we tie it to financials, we do market research, and then we push out the information to CEOs and them to make decisions.
So here's my questions. What tools do you do daily, or what tools do you use daily? What's your normal daily drivers at work?
Email, Teams, Power BI.
Power BI.
Power BI is for all my report building and stuff like that, because a lot of the data that I'm using is 15 million to 60 million rows before it's aggregated down, and so Excel can't handle those types of things. So you need a big data user, and Power BI is just the easiest and best for me. So Snowflake, SQL are common. SharePoint, I have a ton of Power Automates that do a bunch of just random moving, ETL work for me and that sort of stuff, so I don't even have to touch it. Some of it automates emails as well.
Oh yeah, because you send stuff out.
We work with actuarial people, and I actually have a person who just joined my team who came from our actuarial, and we technically fall. It's a really weird category. We fall under risk management, which is your actuarial side. But we are primarily driving strategy. We're trying to drive sales. We're trying to drive new business. We're simplify our products for our agents so they don't have 80 systems to go to. Because I mean, the company that I actually started at isn't even, it was bought by a company which then was bought by the company that I work for, which has bought 4 or 5 other companies. And so all those ITs, we've kind of consolidated them, but we've left a lot of siloed junk out there, which creates for a lot of issues.
Shunya said they work with actuarial, and then they also said Het's hair is better than Tommy's hair. You just got your hair cut too, didn't you?
My beard is better though, but
yeah, I
got
just had to shave because man, I was getting too scraggly, and my hair is so gray now that I look like fucking Santa when I wear a beard.
My beard was pretty built out, and my hair was
I remember,
longer.
Yeah.
And this lady at the doctor's office was like, "You look like Prince Harry."
so didn't they tell you that at Chick-fil-A too?
They've told me, yeah. One of my old girlfriends was like, "Oh, I thought you were Prince Harry."
That's why she talked to you.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's why I wore the out. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Cosplayed for her.
Oh, jeez. Call me Prince Harry. Yeah. No, that's terrible. Tom took my mom is staying with us for a little bit until she gets her back fixed and stuff. She's got some back pain, and Tommy was out with her. He took her to Chick-fil-A, and she will not stop telling everybody, the girls at Chick-fil-A said that my... I don't normally do my making fun of people's voice. I don't do it on stream very often, but I do. I do it all the time when I make fun of people. I don't do it on stream very often. I try to be more professional. But what did she say? Oh, the girl said that my son looked like Prince Harry, and she like posted on Facebook, and this is. I'm like, oh my God, Mom, give it a rest. All right. So here's your next question. How much project versus operational work do you do? So how much do you support things, or are you mostly deploying new things? What's your...
It depends. The project... So there's 2 projects that I was currently working on, and one of them I've handed off to somebody else. So that one entailed operational setup of things, and doing stuff. My day-to-day, though, is not as operational. It's trying to find numbers, trying to set up meetings with people, and get the next information to the next person, or the next data requirements, or handing those off. So it's a lot of interpreting what people are looking for. I technically don't do reporting, but obviously, naturally, my role entails like analyzing data, and like that's a report. So I put a lot of stuff just to Power BI dashboards, and then I let those people, if they want to use it, they use it, and if they don't, they don't. But it's a little bit of both.
So how much ETL do you do, and how much actual, like, do you already have the data and then you're just doing story? Because that's the next question. How much do you have to explain, visualize? Because I know you did a lot of... You do a lot of storytelling. Can you tell them about that?
Storytelling is what we do. We are constantly meeting with executives, and so we have to build storylines. We use PowerPoint. PowerPoint's is most common. Some of the people within the team are pretty... I don't know. They like their PowerPoints a particular way, so 12-point font, like Times New Roman, whatever it is.
That's like academia, where people want it a certain way so that they can consume it exactly the same way all the time.
Some people don't like a lot of visuals. Some people like the basic visuals that draw to the point. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what we're doing is telling...
Are you sometimes doing heat maps versus quantitative? Like they want to see the colors as opposed to the numbers?
Gantt charts a lot of the time too, because we have project deadlines.
Gantt charts are drawing like this.
We got to draw the link, but a lot of what we do is putting the visual there, but it's telling what we call the so what. And so what? So what does this information mean? What does this information do? What is that person going to do with that information that you're giving them. But there's a lot of ETL work
Spark.
in some of the stuff. I don't use Spark. No, we could, but
I've used Spark, but yeah, yeah.
The people I work with, I don't want to say they're not intelligent enough, but Excel and
The product exceeds their capability.
Yeah, if you get beyond like Excel work, they don't know what to do.
Colchis just got here. So Colchis, we were doing just like the Linux stuff. Then my brother Tom showed up to drop some stuff off for my mom. So she's staying with us for a little bit until she gets some back surgery and stuff. But he was saying, what does Tom do? Well, Tom does data analytics. You want to tell him?
Yeah, so I did reporting for a while doing the IT service desk. So like your average handle times, those types of things. But we did like the long term, and then we would turn those into insights for the business.
Okay.
Like, hey, if you do this action, we think that your average handle time is going to increase or decrease, based off of whatever. If you implement more AI into this type of response action, we'll turn these things. So it's a lot of data analytics. The role, like I said, that I do now is strategic finance and analytics lead.
Okay.
So I lead the team and our group on particular projects. So we got anywhere from 5 to 20 projects that we're doing as a larger group. And then within those, there's siloed groups that kind of cross work with each other as well. But a lot of our work is very different because we're in the auto industry, but auto does life, it does umbrella, it does home, it
all
does
types of insurance.
business insurance. Yep. And so we have different projects within each one of those subsets. And then we also have independent agents who are people who sell for all the different insurance companies. But then we also have exclusive agents, and that's our bulk of our business. But then we also have direct, right? You call the 1-800 number and you can get in there. So there's different strategies and processes that we do for each one of those to drive sales, new business. And so what I do is the analytics, the storytelling, the details behind it, but I do the kind of the finance piece connecting it to the analytics. So for right now, for example, we're doing a new business case, and it's because a lot of our exclusive agents, ironically, a lot of them use other sources. And so, yeah, I utilize Python as often as I can. I have quite a few random ETLs that just run some stuff on Python, but it's a lot of just moving someone else's data into an area where I can use it and it makes it useful, because what they do with it is different, right? And
there's a question about the data frame library and plotting libraries that you use. Like, how do you visualize?
Yeah, so with Power BI, I typically, a lot of what I'm trying to provide is aggregated table data, or maybe a couple of KPIs. And so I'll just
They know what KPIs
visuals.
are.
Yeah,
I talk about KPIs all the time with these guys.
Performance indicators,
Yep.
and then on top of that, you have your OKRs, which is your objective key results. And so those tell when your KPIs are hitting. They kind of give you the background of, did you actually hit your objectives based on your KPIs? And so it's a lot it's a lot of mix and match. There's not just like one answer. Sometimes it'll be, I just need to put up some KPIs and throw out some historical information for some people so they can kind of see, okay, we had 12 capabilities that we were going to implement this year, and we thought we were going to see a 50% improvement on our API call time. And so to get rates, right? To get rates is one of the most important things for insurance agents and people trying to sell policies. You need to get the rate as fast as possible. But you got to remember, a lot of our agents, independents, are doing 20 different companies. And then they're going to give maybe what gives them the best incentive if they get 10 sales that month with that carrier or whatever. So we're trying to drive some of the things that say, okay, if we can increase those sales by just 2 per agent per month, that's $80,000. So it costs $50,000 to implement that. $80,000, we just made $30,000, and that's what I do in the quickest and easiest nutshell. It's just on a very large scale in
across
millions,
multi-millions,
and 10 millions, and $50 million worth of stuff. So
We got some other questions here too, but I was gonna say, Oh, well, here's the one question was what critical skills do you look for in people? Or I guess another way to think about that is what critical skills did they look for in you when you
Yeah.
first came over? Because now you've been doing this for 3
I'm-
years now, 4 years
Yeah,
now?
so
Over
four
four
or
now.
5 years total for the analytics. Actually, I moved over in like 2021. So 4
Okay.
years. Yeah, almost coming up on 5. And so they look for the competencies of problem solving as one of the most important, but also your general analysis and your general takeaway. So if you look at the data and I say, I think we can make 30 million off of this project based on all these points, what is your level of confidence, right? And so you usually have a low, medium, and high range depending on what you're going for. And so a lot of the competencies were taking the data, making it digestible for others, and also that, so which is that storytelling component of it. But then it's just also your own interpretation of it, so you can say the so what. Because again, one of the most important parts about our job and what any executive is going to ask is they are going to say, so what?
Yeah, they're gonna
What is
say-
your data? I don't care. Like,
Can I say
yeah.
too, as an engineer, I think, and maybe this is one of the things like this is one of my character flaws. I don't want to draw the final conclusion. I want to take all the data,
Yeah.
and be the engineer and build the thing and like have a working Linux system. Nobody ever asks me like what's the final like Scott come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Because like I just build the stuff. You have to make a call at the end and say your
Yeah.
confidence level of things. So that's
It's-
that.
Yeah,
What-
and it's a lot of working with the other people. So team collaboration and new team relationship building is vitally important
Hmm.
because if you piss off a finance person and there's only 2 finance people, like
You're not
shit's
gonna
getting
get
pushed
data
to the
from,
back end
yeah.
of everything if you need something from them.
I was going to tell these guys, I don't necessarily hear it when we sit here and talk, but people tend to think you and I sound the most alike
Oh,
of all
yeah.
the brothers. So you guys can see that me and Tom are not the same person. Tom's one of my brothers. But okay, here's my next question is, what meeting cadence do you run weekly, daily? Like what meetings do you guys have as teams?
Yeah,
Who do you
so-
meet with? How do you meet with them?
when we're running projects, like when we're at the start of a project, when we're doing the business requirements and stuff like that, it is very meeting intensive. Hell, there was like 14-hour days that were just meeting after meeting after meeting, business requirements, interpretation of those within our smaller group. So it was the business requirements with a larger group, and then it was the smaller group, and then it was this. Now, I've switched off of the 2 projects that I was doing, and I'm focused on one of them now, and that one is a little more in place. There's a lot of gaps in the data side of it, so I'm doing a lot of ETL work to clean some of that stuff and make it digestible. But the meeting cadence is like twice a week is our weekly stand-up, so we do Tuesday and Friday. And then within that, we have some other, like when a new request comes in or an enhancement comes in or a technical issue comes up that requires, me to get in. I don't do a lot of the IT side of things, but I do reporting for them. So, I track like a lot of their rally stuff and everything like that. So they know their financials and their costs based on their estimates and their team capacities and stuff like that. But I don't meet with a lot of those teams, but I meet with finance probably once a month or once every couple weeks. And then we do team meetings, our smaller group. So when I say we have a large group of probably about 60 people, and then we have a smaller group of about 20 people, and then we have my group, which is actually only about 5 of us. And so the larger group, we meet once a month. The medium-sized group, we meet weekly, and then our small group, we meet usually about weekly, or if it ends up being more or whatever, then we jump in more. But those are the times where we get to share what we're working on this week, what's happening next week, and then what we might need help with in the future, so that way we can all tackle the issue together. But I say that, but we are pretty siloed in our groups because I don't know some of the details on the other projects, and they don't know my details.
What's something interesting about your role that people outside might not know? Because like I think everybody thinks they want to do data analytics, but like what's something they might not know
Yeah.
or they might not think about?
It's a lot at times. It is and that comes with any role, but it's different because the need of this group is instantaneous at times. So when we talk about like fires because a network went down, this is like fires because it's the make or break between 400 million and 300 million. You know what I mean? It's the make or break between some of these projects. So the project that I'm on right now is about a $280 million project over a 3-year period. So every business case that we implement with that is anywhere from 10 to $50 million, and potentially increasing that by 5, 10%, whatever, right? And so a lot of these things, they need to be implemented, and they need to be implemented quickly. And that is very, common in the IT world, but it's a different style of it. And so it's agile with, with a fire behind it and a bombing brigade in front of you to kind of clear the way, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, that is one of the biggest things, is that it becomes very stressful in a matter of minutes. Like Thursday, I was pretty caught up on everything. And then Friday morning, we have to have a business case done by Tuesday. And that business case is, when I say a business case, it requires some analytics, some evaluation of numbers, which I'm working on building like this standardized area of Power BI where we can just go to. Because a lot of the times we need to slice by like 20 different categories to get some financial information. But another group needs to slice by those same 20, but a different way, and then they need to get a different number. And so, again, that independent versus exclusive versus direct. My group, we don't care about independent agent, but some of the groups, they utilize their project is both independent and exclusive and direct, and so they need to grab more pieces of that slice to get the information they need. Or maybe it's focused on West Zone territory versus East Zone territory and those types of things. And we unfortunately don't have a very standard area out there where we can just go collect that data. It's a bunch of Excel or Power BI or whatever.
What kind of side projects are you working on? Are you doing anything outside of work on any of this? Are you doing any side stuff with anybody?
Not outside of work, but so I do a lot of like Power Automate at work, just for my own self work. And so one of the things that I worked on was, so our independent or our exclusive agents can submit what we call enhancement requests to us, where they think, I have the greatest idea to implement email directly into your Salesforce system or your CRM or your whatever, right? And so they can submit these. Well, with those come training issues. Maybe they submit something and it's like, well, that is actually a process or something a feature we already have for you. You just maybe don't know it. Maybe you're a new agent to town. Maybe you're an older agent. You just don't know, that something has changed, or you didn't get the email or read the email about updates that we were making. And so what I've done is actually work to automate some of those reactions back to where, let's say I think there was 2,500 total submissions last year, and I automated the two parts. One is I automated the evaluation of if it is a training issue, meaning that the agent just doesn't know that it is actually a feature. And then if it is a technical issue, meaning like they need to actually contact our IT and submit something to IT to get this fixed for them, I automated 500 of those emails to where we contact the agent back automatically based on their submission. We're working on, there's keywords that I look for, but we're working on trying to incorporate maybe some AI or machine learning into
like
the descriptions
100%.
that they're providing. But there's a couple of key clicks that they do that say, yeah, this is a training issue. Like, we already have this feature in place, you need to do this. And so I've automated that. That 500 hours is time that it took an analyst to review the description, to then code the description, to then pull the description and email and respond to them. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of that. So
Runamucker was asking, data analytics is just top line metrics and after action review. I think that's what ARR reports means, right? Am I right? Or what is it, that and other things? What do you?
Yeah, so there is, I would say that this group,
Action ready.
This group is not the best at, well, if we're to go to the after action review type thing like we do in the Army, just as a quick note, I will say that this group is not the best at then looking at the results and saying, hey, we actually got to the numbers that we do. They do a small snippet of it, but they're just like, oh yeah, we brought in 4 million.
We were
It's like,
100% of 100%.
yeah, but they
There's no
didn't-
greater score than we could have done.
Right. They don't go back and reanalyze like, oh, we had like there is people looking at overage costs, right? Like if we run over our costs, and there are obviously finance is very involved in those portions. But where I was going with that is I don't think that our group does the best job of saying, hey, what we actually implemented and what we analyzed for low, medium, and high. Now, granted, I've only been in this group for 7 months. But I will say that we're not the best at like confirming that what we speculated actually came to fruition. Now, the group has been successful, obviously, in everything that they're doing because they're still working as a group. But I think that's like one of the things that we need to be better at to that.
If you could move somewhere else in analytics, like what would be what's your favorite part of your analytics? Is it like the start of the pipeline,
Yeah.
the fixing things, the presenting? What if you could just do one part of it? What would you work
Yeah.
on?
Ironically, I will say that in my old role, I was a part of just the moving of it.
Just moving the data
and then
around?
visualizing it.
Yep.
But they took their own interpretations. In this role, I am supposed to be more on the back end of actually analyzing and visual storytelling. However, and actually I realize I gotta take off, Scott.
Yeah, he's
I
gotta get
gotta
out of
pick
here.
the Kids up, but
Yeah.
So with that, I like the beginning stages. I like the ETL and the visualization. I don't mind the communicating with CEOs and stuff like that, but if you've never dealt with that, there's a lot of politics in the top end of the world, and I am not a politics kind of person when it comes to the
I'm not either.
bickering. I don't like some of the you provide all this data and then someone will just be like, I don't think that's right. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, but I have a high level of confidence based on the data, and you're just like, nah, my whim, my AI prompt.
So that's exact. By the way, they call that, so in your dissertation for a doctorate, we say that you always fight the snake. And depending on how prepared you are is how big the snake is, but there will be a snake in that room, and you will have to fight the snake.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm just going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the shit out of this guy and armbar in front of everybody. But no, it's like there's the fucking just the fighting the snake. That's what the snake is. The snake is just the guy that's waiting to bite you on some little pedantic thing that has nothing to do with the. Yeah.
And it happens all the time, and it's almost always like one of
Maddening.
2 or 3 people, but when you finally get those 3 people and you're like, oh, they didn't say anything, then the 4th person says something, you're like, mother, and then you just gotta go through it, and then it becomes a fire drill of let's look at this. So it's a lot of little things like that just kind of
Hold on, let me talk to the wifey for 1 second. Wifey, you're on stream with me and Tommy. What do you need?
Oh, hi, Tommy.
Hey.
And stream.
I'm getting
And stream. The 20th, I do have plans in the afternoon, evening. Why?
Do I have to be there?
Not unless you want to do gingerbread houses.
Oh
and-
God,
yeah.
no, God, no,
Oh.
God, no.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
No,
I'll
what?
see you guys. Bye,
Yeah, see you,
stream.
Tommy.
Yep, later.
No, wifey. Then I'm gonna go up and train with my buddies in Williams.
Oh, okay.
Okay, loves you. Bye.
You're only allowed if you get your dissertation stuff done. Okay, love
Okay,
you,
bye. She's right. I am only allowed if I get my dissertation stuff done. The wife's in charge of stuff. All right, Tommy's gone. Guys, if you ever need to talk to him, he's come and talked to our group many times in Discord. And Tommy is very good at what he does. He worked for a long time to get into that. And you guys want to hear? There's a funny thing about Tommy that I sometimes tell people. I'm pretty sure that like on all there's like 7 or 8 billion people on planet Earth. I'd be willing to bet me and my brother Tommy there's less than 100 people on planet Earth that can say this thing that he and I share. You say, what kind of weird thing is Scott about to say? I'd be willing to bet you that not but maybe 100 people on planet Earth have been the college professor for their younger brother to be one of the college students. So he has been my college student in 2 different classes. He did get A's in both of them, but he earned them. He was getting A's anyways. So just so everybody knows, like that, Tommy was also my college student many years ago at DeVry. Many years ago, probably, God, that would have been in the 20-teens, 2017, 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. He was pretty early on. He and then he got his network communication. Then he has a master's degree as well in information systems management with a focus on data analytics. So yeah, if you guys have questions for him down in Discord, do that. Also, he came and did presentations a while back, and I'm pretty sure he might not have a presentation here because his data analytics, he did it all hands-on with you guys. No, this is all Tommy right here. So this was Tommy did his presentation here. We could pull this down and look at it. But if you guys ever, like, he was doing KPIs and he was showing you guys how to translate them in Excel, and he was also doing it in Power BI and stuff. So people that wanted to see those kind of skills, because yeah, he's been doing that for his insurance company for some time. Okay. But yeah, like one, and this kind of goes to what Tommy was just here talking about, is like, find people that are doing things that you want to do. If you want to get good at something, if you tell me, hey Scott, I want to be the best baseball player. I want to have the best swing in baseball. And I go, well, okay, what are you doing in baseball to get a better swing? You're like, I don't really do anything. I'm like, I don't know if I really think you want to have the best swing in baseball. But if you say, Scott, I go to the batting cages twice a week, that's probably the minimum, sure. I meet with a batting coach that worked with the A's. I don't know if the A's were good batters, but let's say they were. And then we, and then I also study extensively the swing of other players to try to get whatever. That, if you told me that, then I would say, yeah, I do think you're trying to be the best at whatever. Well, if you want to get into Linux, if you want to get into, and in Tommy's case, data analytics, you got to go hang with people that are doing this stuff. You got to find out people that are doing this stuff. Hello, so Linux kernel keeps closing games that use too much RAM. How do I make it stop doing so? Eat raw steaks for breakfast. That's a great name, by the way. So it depends. If you're running a Linux desktop, that's already interesting, right? You can always go pull anything you want out and recompile your own kernel if you want. There's nothing keeping you from doing that. I will tell you this. A lot of times, since I talk mostly enterprise Linux, I don't talk a lot about rebuilding kernels, but you could rebuild your own kernel for your operating system. You can go find it, you can download it, change things, pull out. Typically, you want to pull out the out of memory killer, the OOM killer, right? Out of mana for you old World of Warcraft players, or any of those games with healing. Yeah, but that's about the best I could say. Is you can modify your stuff in all the ways you want. But I don't do a lot of gaming on Linux, so I mostly do all my gamings on the Windows side because I'm lazy like that. I let Linux be what Linux is for, and for me, Linux is for big data systems and that kind of stuff, right? So anyways, all right, so stay current. I do think you need to get yourself current in the industry if you're not, and these are direct things. Well, I switched to Kubuntu, and I have to learn less on it than I had to on Cal. Well, that's for sure true, because Kubuntu is more for the end user. I would tell you, if you really want to like have a Linux that's really like just for the user and to play games and stuff on, you might have to step all the way over to Fedora, because Fedora is probably the most friendly of all of them. I don't know, maybe Ubuntu as well. One of those two typically. But again, a lot of that stuff like desktop Linux, not big in the industry. We don't do a lot of desktop support or desktop working, unfortunately. We do have, so Eat Raw Steak for breakfast. I know at least 4 guys in our Discord that actively game on Linux. So if you were to go in our Discord and ask down in the gaming channel. Oh, by the way, guys, they're doing Bash study groups. So I think you should drop the stream here and go hang out in the Bash study group. Those guys are doing all kinds of good stuff. But if you weren't going to do that, if you were just talking gaming, in the gaming discussion, if you ask questions about playing these different games on there, the guys tend to talk about, they love talking gaming on Linux, right? So on games, and then obviously the other things I would tell you to do: check your logs, probably look in the logs for, Google. Go find what Googleable or AI finding type actions you can take on those kind of things. Because out of memory killer always reports what it kills. Even if out of memory killer crashes a Linux box, you can see it in the core dump. And if you're getting logs off in real time, you get it in the logs. So out of memory killer doesn't do anything in a vacuum. So that's another important thing to use. If it is something like the killer or the out of memory killer. All right, anyways. We had systems administrator. So this was install, configure, and maintain computer system servers, network, and peripheral devices. And I would say that these are some of the things you kind of need to know in that space, right? So computer systems, Linux, you need to be able to keep an inventory. What's the name? And that name can be a short name, and it can also be a DNS fully qualified domain name. If you're using those, it's just how does the system see other systems? IP addresses, how do we logically find them in the network? What subnets do they belong to? All that kind of stuff. Can't boot on my Windows anymore since I did a silly update, and now it makes it a pain, unusable, so I just can't log in. Well, yeah, I mean, you might have to reinstall some of that, and then sometimes you have to figure out, how much are you willing to lose back? Some of those updates, if you reinstall Windows, will at least be able to get some of your data back. Some of them won't. That's always a thing. I try to keep the data that I really care about in my systems. I keep off on a Samba share, Samba in my Windows world and NFS in my Linux world. Yeah, Robodom. I've had my Windows 11 has crashed at least 15 times since I went over to it. I can't stand Windows 11. I think it's a terrible product. But for productivity reasons, I kind of stick around on it. But I mean, I really need to... Oh, you can't play certain games. Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah. Network. There's a whole bunch of different things to know about networks. And honestly, you can dig into all of this over time. There's a lot going on inside of networks. Like, how do you access a device? What does it mean to be a top-of-rack switch, spine, and leaf? What are some of these different types of architecture? What's the 3-tier Cisco model, core, distribution, and access? And what do those mean? For like an admin, if you're down in a data center, like what do these things mean? Flash the SAD and buy Windows. It's possible. Oh, the SSD. Yeah. Very possible. I thought that said SAD. I was like, wait a minute, what's a SAD? But no, it's just that it's so small. I have the text so small on there, and then I'm wearing my glasses, so I can't see anything anyways. And then access the device. How do we get in? Do we console directly in? Do we reset to factory settings? Do we use SSH? Do we use IPMI? Right, we can... Or other management tool. We use IPMI tool to connect to servers, right? There's BMC, which is basically the same type of thing. Yeah. Well, our alternative with Windows is in my mind, at least the good thing about Windows is that if you pay for it up front, it's not like everybody's trying to get everybody on subscriptions. And I guess I'd rather pay for them up front and not have subscriptions, because if it was subscriptions, that would be even worse. You're always paying for this shitty product. You need to be able to administer and troubleshoot operating systems, applications, software. They want you to know Active Directory, DNS, and Exchange. Like some of these companies, they just want you to know everything for a job. This says troubleshooting, talk about troubleshooting document, or the talk we have. So with troubleshooting in general, you have to know how something works to be able to troubleshoot it. And then you have to be able to break down where the process is breaking. I have a whole talk on that. It's up in the Discord. If you go to Discord and then you go to presentations, it's called troubleshooting. So if anybody wants it. I know I have it up here. HPC topics, subnetting, that kind of stuff. I have all kinds of stuff up here. There's troubleshooting. It's the very first one. General troubleshooting. It's the very first one in the presentations channel, and I've updated it since then. But you got to understand like how you go through the process of troubleshooting, and how you orient yourself to a problem, and then answer the problem that's in front of you. Those kind of things. They want you to know how to monitor. So this is a different job than the other one. That's why the numbering started over. But they want you to be able to monitor a system. Can you go and check simple things? Can you do, so there's command line tools. Can you check how a system's doing? Can you, this one might have been network based. So then like, can you use SNMP to get information? Can you use some type of agent to pull information off and give it to like a time series database and then share it out with Grafana, something like we have here, right? This is our actual lab environment here. And this is, you know, how healthy everything is, green, and then how much usage we have on the different systems down here. We could break this down to any one system if we wanted. We're looking at just one node now, Loki, but we can go see all of the lab environment up here. And that's maybe useful to us for whatever reason, right? Can we visualize? Yeah, SolarWinds, Grafana, those are big tools for that kind of stuff. Okay. Conduct system backups and uphold data integrity and security. So we talked about some of these things. We've talked about these a lot, but like backups, making sure that you're backing stuff up. Scripts are the most basic way to do that, but then we get more and more advanced up into like Bacula and Avamar and these different types of tools that can do backups for us. Then we have integrity with tools like AID, which is the Advanced Intrusion Detection environment for Linux, and I have a lab that shows you how to set that up in Killer Coda. Then maybe Tripwire. Tripwire is not really around anymore, but AID does the same functionality, and they're mostly all based on iNotify, but that's this tool that monitors directories and files to make sure that nothing's changed on them, right? They want you to be able to collaborate with other teams, so this is like knowing how people talk to each other. Yeah, new technology solutions and implementation. So you got to keep abreast of what's going on in the industry. You got to study. You got to join like-minded Discord, IRC, or Slack. I think it's just IRC. IIRC is if I remember correctly, right? IRC is the Internet Relay Chats. You got to keep a meeting schedule, so maybe block off calendar for lunch. You're an individual contributor, so you don't spend all your time in meetings. You should be able to collaborate with other teams, though, and give them good inputs on typically like what type of Linux we use, how we secure it, what our protocols are, how long it takes us to deploy nodes, and what some of the considerations are on them. What is our maybe our average size of systems without making any major changes? Like, do we have a small, medium, and large type server that we'll build for an environment? And then maybe you have to develop and maintain IT policies, right? This is very hard to start from a blank page, so I would tell you not to. Policy is not hands-on, guys. Policy is stuff like sans.org here. Let's see if I can click on this and copy the link. Sans.org has some really good starting information security policies for a company, right? Network device management, privileged account management. How are we going to, again, at a high level, this isn't down in the weeds. Policies are like the overarching guidelines of things. Procedures are the hands-on technical things, and there's certain ability assumptions. And then there's some blogs for that. Sans.org has a really good list of ways to start. And I always show people these cheat sheets they have that will get you started. So if you have no idea on a team, if you don't know what to do in a security incident with your servers, here's a good start right here. This doc right here, I'll link this to anybody that wants it. This is out on the web. This doc will show you what you should be checking in a Windows server over here on the left and a Linux server over here on the right. Now, this is just a raw document. This is not ready to go. I would take these and I would turn these into a procedure, which are like a set of steps for a network operation or a junior admin to do, and start to check out a system to make sure that it's not compromised in some way. We would go look at the processes that are running, the files and logins and all these kind of things that might indicate what we call indicators of compromise, IOCs, right? And who do we communicate up with? What are the incident response steps? And then one of the things too is an incident response is only as good as your practice for it. So if you have this doc and you're like, hey, I know that when shit hits the fan and everything's going everywhere and everybody's calling and complaining and this and this and this, that my Linux admins are going to know to go download this doc that I've written up from this and made nice and do that exact steps to report up. I can promise you right now, if you've never practiced that, that is not the first thing that's going to happen. They're going to be running around like, you know, they're going to be like, what is it, SpongeBob and Patrick with their hands up in the air like this, just yelling and screaming. They're not going to do the shit that they should do because you haven't practiced it, right? There's this old saying, you train like you fight. and you can only fight as well as you train, right? And there's another way of saying it that people say, if you can't do it slow, you can't do it fast. Well, if you're in the middle of the crunch and you're trying to figure this stuff out, you're setting your team up for failure. I often tell you guys this stuff about like getting your hands on stuff and practicing Linux. I say that you can't be like late at night, called out at 2 a.m., rubbing sleep out of your eyes, in the fire, people breathing down your neck, getting you on a call saying, hey, share your screen, and trying to figure out how a tool works. That is the worst time in all the world to try to do that. You want to be figuring out and playing with these things and learning them now. So, all right, that's me on my soapbox, but these are things that I think will help you guys get into the field. Provide advanced technical support and respond to end user issues. So you got to be able to be on an operational team. You got to respond to user tickets. Our guy, Fisherman Guybro, he put together some really good like practice for you guys to get like tickets in and respond to tickets inside of Killer Coda. So he's got some really good labs that walk you through that. People are going to be vague towards you. They're going to tell you the server's acting funny. It's not a good thing to try to work on. Yeah, give that shout out to Fisherman. I appreciate that. He hasn't streamed in a while. We need to get him back streaming. He did send me a little Stream Deck, rather. You guys ever seen one of these little guys? He sent me one of these little guys. Pretty cool little thing. I got it still kind of wrapped up so it doesn't go very far, but I can do things on my, like I can, it's just like hot button keys and stuff. Yeah. He sent me one of those after he said he used it at, he was just at reInvent. So if you guys want to see Fisherman out in the wild talking at reInvent, we could watch his stream. Well, we're not going to watch the YouTube here, but yeah, he's got a YouTube video up from reInvent this last thing. If you want to find it, you go into Cloud Technologies in our Discord and you can find it. I always link his stuff when he posts it. There will often be routine or easy fixes for you, but that's because you're an engineer. Yeah. People don't do Linux all day like you guys will. You guys are going to be the Linux people. Root into your Steam Deck? I probably could. It's a simple little box. And then warm handoff, call and switch a ticket to a new queue. Make sure that you're not just leaving tickets languishing out there. I say that as I have a ticket that's been languishing out there for many months in my company, but I don't really have anything I can do with it, so I've just been kind of skipping it. Okay, conduct system audits for vulnerability improvement areas. So they want you to be able to do these basic things. You need to understand what hardening is. You should know what white box scanning is. White box scanning means I have all the information. I can even get in the server. Sometimes I'm even root. Black box scanning is you're outside and you have no permissions. You're using external tools like Nmap or other ways to like scan through a list of hosts and services and ports. You can validate that software is being updated, kernel updates. Make sure some software that's been locked in place isn't so back that you're getting common vulnerabilities and exposures from it, those kind of things. Use Ansible to determine drift in your systems. I'm a big fan of Ansible to pull information out of systems and compare it, because Ansible's really good at that. Your systems are really good at comparing things. You're not good at comparing things. I know people don't like to hear they're not good at things, but I'm telling you right now, you're not good at this. You're not. I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to go, this is my werewolf system. So RPM QA here, and then Jumpbox, which is a different type of node. And we'll just do the last line. We'll just do the last page. What are the differences? I mean, I see that there's differences, but I'm terrible at this. I mean, I can see one's a grub and Python and the other's all. But if you said, Scott, what are the differences between those two? I'd be like, the fuck you think I am? What do you think I am? Like some kind of machine? No, the machines are really good at telling us the difference between these things, though. And maybe even filter. Let's maybe even... Right? So here's Python here. And here's Python here. Maybe the easiest thing to notice is this is mostly Python 3 because it's a newer box, and that's not. But even then, do you guys see, like, I know I'm being silly about it, but do you see how different those are? You can't do that nearly as well as a system can. And you might say, well, there's a tool called diff. Yeah, diff is great, but I got to get the two files in the same system, so Ansible's a great tool for that. Blademaster test only can tell if you are a machine or humanoid using a cybernetic organism. Interesting. That's the... did I miss something, by the way? Oh, also, guys, if you see anything that you want to clip, Please clip it. What did I miss? I might have missed something by Blade Master. Maybe I didn't. Only can tell if you're a machine or humanoid or a certain... Yeah. Stay updated with emerging technologies or industry best practices. I tell you, get connected to a group. I tell you guys all the time, if it's not our professional Linux users group, right? If you go like, hey, I can't listen to this guy for another second. I don't like any of the people in his community. Can't stand none of them. It's not us. Go find somebody. I tell you guys, get help. If you can't get help here, get help somewhere, right? That's there was an old, in the 80s and 90s out here in the Phoenix area, there was this, it was like Charter Mental Health Center. And they used to have this commercial that said, if you don't get help at Charter, please get help somewhere. And that's exactly how I think about this. If it's not us, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you guys are like, hey, I like the Primagean more. I'd be like, well, that's a jump. But I mean, if that's the guy you want to listen to, go hang out over there. I don't hang out in both if you want. But I'm just saying, like, some people resonate with other people. Some groups resonate with other people. There's 1.5 million hacking groups out there that, in air quotes, call themselves hackers, right? And you know, it is what it is. Find a group that resonates with you and go with them. But listen to how people talk. Listen to how people are professionals. I had a guy on here yesterday. It's actually kind of funny. He's like, are you a professional? You don't sound like you're a professional. And I'm like, oh, a ban. But also, it's like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I sound pretty professional, but maybe not. I don't know. I've only been doing this forever, and I'm only the guy that everybody uses for the crap that they can't figure out without him. What do I know? Liaise with vendors. This is maybe one of the best skills early on, especially because your management doesn't want to do it. Your senior engineers don't want to do it. So if you do this early on, you will endear yourself to companies and teams and management, because they'll be like, oh, just give that Scott. Scott loves handling vendors. I can't stand handling vendors, right? But some people do. If I don't sound like a professional, you should hear me. Yeah. Q, I think the point I was making when somebody said that too was I was saying how this may be the only time, like with my college students especially, you may break rocks all day. I don't know. And then you come and hang out here, and I try to make this sound like what would happen if you were talking with a real engineer. You know, like get in there. But handling third parties, man, so third party are typically people you pay, so they're giving you services, so they really want to keep you happy. You're the customer. You've sat down and put the handkerchief in, and you're about to spend a lot of money with a company. They will bend over backwards, but they will also play games. So one of the things I say is never leave an email unanswered. If you have management breathing down your neck and say, hey, when is this vendor going to provide this? And that vendor can ever show that they sent you an email in like last week. They're like, hey, last week we asked them about this and they never got back to us. But if they can show that like the next day they sent you an email and it was sitting there on you, it will be on you. That's probably the vendor's favorite game. And I'm not saying that to like shit on vendors. Vendors are providing you a service, but they can't move forward and provide any more service until you give them something back. So I treat every email, I don't like dealing with vendors, but I do this. I treat every vendor, everything like it's a hot potato. I've never had a hot potato thrown at me, but let's say you did. I throw a hot potato at you. We're out camping or something, and it came right off the fire. It's got the foil on it, so you're like, What are you gonna do? You're either gonna bounce it around like this and throw it to somebody, or you're gonna drop it on the ground because it's too hot to hold. So the idea of a hot potato is get it out of your queue. Don't leave vendor stuff in your queue. It's very important. And I say be extremely precise when dealing with them. You can't just say it's a riser card in the back. So, you know, you're working with a vendor, and you're dealing with a vendor, and it's IBM, let's say, or I work with Dell a lot. So I'll put in a ticket for Dell for some high performance compute system I'm on, and I will have I'll have like 5 or 6, maybe even like 10 people from Dell that work on this project with me. But when I send that ticket in, it is not going to my engineers. So when I say, oh, it's on the, Hydra system, it's the riser cards in the back of the system that we just deployed, this and this and this, they're going to be like, I don't know what the fuck that system is. We have 17 different types of riser card. Which riser card would you like? And then they send that as an email to you. And if you don't get to it for 2 days, that was on you, right? So anyways, where I'm going with this, you'd eat that hot potato and let it burn. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Robodom. Have you ever seen, Robodom said if you're hardcore, you just let the potato burn you and just eat it. Have you guys ever heard the hardcore way to eat ramen? Robodom, I'm pretty sure you like ramen, if I recall. Make everything as obfuscated as humanly possible and lean into those aliases. Yeah. Are you guys all familiar with the hardcore way to eat ramen? Well, let's see. I'm pretty sure this is a common meme. Or hardcore ramen mode. Hardcore ramen mode. Let's see if we can find it. It's probably on Reddit right here. Hardcore way to eat 2-minute noodles. Boil water. Eat the block of noodles. Drink the boiling water. Snort the flavor powder. This is like the bad. Let's copy that image and throw it in Discord. But this is like, I mean, this is important to understand. This is still. Let's see what's going on in memes, jokes. Yeah, this is the hardcore way to eat 2-minute noodles, right? Boil the water, eat the block of noodles, drink the boiling water. Yeah, like, but that probably burns you and kills you. So don't. Scott did not say. Wait, I did not mean for you to do any of that. Please don't any of you do that and then blame it on me, right? That would be perfect. Be like, how did that guy's streaming career end? Well, he told people to drink boiling water, and it did not end well for the first person. Fuck. I'm not telling you to do it. Please don't do that, guys. Okay. Yeah, if you've never seen that, that's actually really funny. I love the hardcore ramen challenge. So don't do that. But my point is, you got to give them good information, right? If I'm in a Linux box, this is what I meant to show you guys. If I'm in a Linux box, I will always give these two things. These will always be included in a ticket. I don't care what the ticket's about. Well, the ticket's always going to be about Linux if it's me, right? But the Linux that I want support on from a customer or from, let's say it's CIQ and it's Werewolf, and I have Werewolf support with quite a few different contracts, so I can get questions answered. But what if I refuse to tell? I don't tell them. I mean, this would be a bare minimum. This is the version of Werewolf I'm using. This is the version of the OS that we're on, and this is the kernel version that we're on. And all three of those things are tremendously useful when their help desk hands it over to their back-end engineers and they stand up like a similar type environment to this. I can feel my stomach exploding. That's funny. Package management, Nix, for fuck's sake, we need a standard registry of some kind. Yeah, Runamucker, I'll tell you, like, I have to lock registries in and then push things forward in my environments that way. For sure. Yeah. Package management is hard. Package management with thousands of different vendors feeding into a repository, extremely hard. It's literally what you pay Red Hat for. But a lot of people don't know, Red Hat, like when IBM bought them, I was at Summit that year in 2019, and they were like, it was weird. We spent $34 billion for a company that has no assets. Because Red Hat owns the name, but they don't own any of that stuff they pipeline down in. That's all open source stuff, right? They have some software, sure, but most of their stuff is, whatever. You should say it's this exact type of card in this exact slot doing this exact same thing. Sonny said you'll grab hot potatoes with your teeth, sure. All right, and then this is, you, sir, are technically correct, the best kind of correct. So make sure that you are as technical, and people are like, oh, you're being pedantic. Yeah, but pedantry is good engineering, right? You can't just say, well, you take the thing and you give them the thing and the thing and the this and the that, and the thing that runs the Linux no, tell them it's a kernel. Tell them it's a release file. Tell them it's the version of Werewolf with the major, minor, and patch releases, right? And really just dump this in the ticket for what it's worth. But what I'm saying is pedantry isn't bad in engineering, as long as you're not using it to like beat people over the head. Yeah, management, patch management, stability, security systems, and data. So this was directly written on some job posting that I grabbed. All of these numbered things are the exact posting. So this one said they wanted you to be able to manage patch management, stability, security systems, and data backups. This was a thing that they lumped together as security, really. Yeah. I say you have to control your own repos. 100%. You just can't be grabbing shit off the internet. It doesn't work like that. Not in prod. You set the life cycle. You can do it based on CVSS scores and vulnerabilities, and if you patch things based on that, Have a patching schedule. Maybe the 1st and 3rd of the month you download and lock all the repos. The 4th and 7th of the month you patch all of your dev. And then maybe after that burns in for a couple weeks, then you can push to your QA test. And then at the end of the month, you prod patch. Typically on an off window with the weekend. And then if you have load balancers and all this other stuff, then you're rolling through your updates of servers. This is if you have physical servers. I mean, if Kubernetes is more blue-green stuff, and it's a little easier in some ways, but it's harder in other ways. So, all right. Thanks for coming, Xshunya, over on the YouTube side. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Robodom's been doing a good job of letting you guys know about our Discord, but there's a place you guys can hang out and do Linux with us and get better at this kind of stuff. And it's funny, the wife called me because I'm pretty sure she knew that I should have been working on stuff and not streaming. But I decided to stream first so that I could then work on that other stuff later. So, all right. Random question. Did we get some GPUs in home? No, I don't have GPUs in the home lab yet. I'm still waiting. I don't think that Digits thing came out yet. I think they were on pre-order and back order, but I haven't seen if they're out yet. We are going to get those in the lab, though. We are. Digits. Let's see if they have that. Is that out yet? It looks like Smart Gift. They do have it out. The wife said I could buy one. I could tell you guys a story. I don't want it to. I don't want it to be super Chad, but that's not bad. Oh, and they give you a free course too. That'd be cool. DLI. No, I don't have this yet, but they do have it out finally, though. I'm glad you asked that question, Xshunya, because I had not been looking. Amazon's got it over here. Boom. They got it at the right price. Let's see what some of the other stuff in here is. Deca Core processor. What other? One 128 gigs of RAM. Okay. Graphics. I wonder what the onboard get all the way up to 4 terabytes of memory in this bad boy. Ooh. That's nice. Not getting a lot of stars yet, but I bet those people are being super picky. How many reviews is this? Only 4 reviews, so that's not great yet. It is ARM, so we'll be doing a totally different architecture. Exegol? I have not ever heard of Exegol. Hold on, what is that? I don't even know what that is. I have not played with this at all or looked at it. I will I'll keep that open and look at that later too, if that's okay. Okay. So yeah, you gotta do your patch management, guys. I have whole course information on patch management, like up. If you go back, don't worry about that. If you go to our notes, meeting notes, and you can see in meeting notes where we were doing patch stuff. If I go all the way to the most recent, and then I back up a little bit, you'll see where we were doing. We were setting it all up on our here. So this is like how patching works, and then how we download patching and move it forward into our other environment. So I have there's a better version of that, but that's the ASCII art from my presentation. That's kind of hard to read because it's like that. If I downloaded that, it would be. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the point is that's there if you guys want that. Setup and provision user. So they want you to be able to typically move stuff around. Sometimes they do this just so that they weed out people who aren't at least mobile enough to do stuff. That's the world we live in, right? I mean, they can say that the job requires 50 pounds of lifting and standing for long periods of time. They don't have to say you can't be over 50. That's illegal in the U.S. But they can say stuff like this, which may be pretty hard for somebody that's not, I used to work a job at a school district when I first got out of the Army, so I was 22, and I worked where you had to be able to bend and lift and move stuff, but then the job was moving computers around to schools and teachers and stuff, so like I was constantly moving heavy things around, so didn't matter to me in my 20s to do that all day. 40s and 50s, probably not going to do that all day. I'd be sore as shit at the end of the day. So I'm not going to do that anymore, but I'm glad that they have that in a job requirement, so, that they make sure that you can move stuff. Yeah, because like I move stuff in data centers even now that are like 2-man lifts, and I always go find a second person to help me move them for sure, right? That's funny. I was talking the other it was probably like almost 5 years ago now. I was working in a data center for NOAA, and I was moving this big tape. I was moving a big tape appliance in, and it's six U's. So 6 U's is about that. 8 U's? No, it's 6 U's, about 6 U's like that. And I actually have a picture of the same device in a presentation I showed yesterday on the tape drive stuff. And I remember I was putting it in there, and I pinched my hands, which you always pinch your hand in data centers, so you're just like, whatever. But I was sitting there swearing on the floor. I had it lifted. It's probably about 90 to 100 pounds, maybe a little more. And it was up, but I had it on one of those, you guys ever seen the server lifters? And then you can use them to slide them into the rack. So I had it up there, and I'm sitting on the floor, and it was heavy. Yeah, do all the lifting. And I remember I punched the thing, so then my hands were pinched, and then I was bleeding, and then my boss, Don, called me. I'm in this loud data center, and I'm yelling at him. I forget what Don even called for at that point, but I remember telling him, I was like, hey, I'm sitting under a 90 or 100 pound, and I was underneath it. I was sitting on the floor. I had just punched it, so I was bleeding. I had pinched my hand. I was probably bleeding from that. And I remember I was yelling and swearing as I answered the phone with Don, and it was all loud in the data center. I still work in that data center sometimes for NOAA. It's kind of funny, but people get downvoted because they think Apple gives you more VRAM for the same price. Interesting, actually. Yeah. I will probably go with the NVIDIA one just because that's what I use out in the world. Yeah, I don't even remember what the boss asked me about. But I will tell you, that same boss, he called me the other day. This was kind of funny. And he said, hey, Scott, I'm going to give you this bonus, but I'm going to go ahead and just round it up to this next number. And I was like, it's a deal. So if you guys know who Luigi Vampa is from the Count of Monte Cristo, it's like, oh, I get to keep this guy and I get to keep this guy, so I'll have 2 fighters and skilled sailors for my crew, and these people have seen the sport, and I don't have to kill this guy, and it's like, oh, everything's good. It's a deal. And that's how I felt when he was calling me and telling me. Anyways, doesn't matter. None of that matters. Where was I going? And then this was a DevOps one, so then I just started going through DevOps and stuff, things that I think that you need to know. We probably won't get to all of these today. These notes are up in the Discord, though, so if you do want any of these, or if you're like, oh, I want that Killer Coda or Kubernetes stuff, I need that. Oh, yeah. In fact, that was my alarm going off from 3 hours ago. I actually have to drop right now because I have a college class here in 15 minutes. I got to go. It's like a study group for my college students. So there's a lot here. I think that you should spend time if you want to get the job, right? If you want to get the job in Linux administration and engineering, you got to know what the job is, and then you've got to know what your interests are, which we talked about yesterday and kind of in part 1 of this. You've got to know what you want to do in that job or whatever, and then you've got to assess the gap between what they want to pay you for and what you know now, and then we got to figure out how to close that gap. I have a lot of tools. There's a lot of people with a lot of tools. In fact, I would tell you guys there's so many tools out there in this world that you could just spin on noise forever and never get a job, never do anything, and you would know everything about everything, but you'd be less than useful to anybody and less than useful to yourself. So what I would tell you is find the thing you're interested in. Figure out, I got to go from here to here. It's like Oregon Trail, that old game where you had to get from Chicago to Oregon. You had to get from here to there. And then we got to figure out the points to get you there. And if you need help with that, ask me down in the Discord. Just say, hey, Scott, I need help getting into this role, and I'll try to point you at the resources that I know of. Right? So that's my goal. That's why we do this stuff. Not to be the most popular streamer on Twitch, because while we're close, we're not there yet. We're not. That's not the goal. The goal is to get people into doing this stuff professionally. So, all right, I'm gonna drop off of here, guys. I will see some of you guys later on this week. I definitely appreciate everybody coming by. This will be the last of these. So yesterday was part 1. This is part 2, and hopefully this works for you guys. Get in there, start working on stuff, find other people that are doing stuff. There's a Bash study group going right now on our Discord. If you say, hey, I want to learn Bash and get into this, they're down there working on it right now. You can go hang out with those dudes right now. So, all right, I got to drop off here. I will see you guys. Some of you guys I'll see later on this week. Take care.